Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode. Thank you so much for listening to the episode with Kelly last week. It was so much fun and I really hope you did enjoy it. And if you like it, share it with a friend, share it with someone you think might like it, or screenshot it and pop it on your stories and tag me on it. I can't wait to see where you're listening, how you're listening, and what you take from the episodes. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Helen Walsh, who is a mindset and fitness coach.
And you walk across hot coals on the first day just to show yourself mentally
What you can do.
It's not a problem. And there's tens of thousands of people like coming out and going across these. It's an incredible sight.
I've decided to add a little segment to the show where I advise you on things to watch, listen to, activities maybe to do if you haven't tried yet. So at the moment I'm listening to a fantastic audiobook and you can get it for free on Spotify, and it has been a classic throughout the past over 80 years, 90 years nearly, 80 years. Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. It's a book about mindset. It's about learning to get your goals and working towards them. It's a very powerful book. Think and Grow Rich. I'll link that below. And what else am I doing? I'm going for runs. I'm learning the guitar. I'm meditating. I'm doing yoga with Adrienne, which is great, a 30-day program, which is free. I'll link below in the description of the show. Head over to Instagram to follow at Helen Walsh Coaching and at Louis Max as well to see what we're up to. Now today on the episode, myself and Helen talk about her amazing career over the past 30 years. She was named one of the 50 most influential women in Ireland, and she was a recipient of the Lord Mayor's Award. Whoa, that was a lot of things to say. And Helen has trained the top stars over the past 30 years. She has so many charity initiatives. She went to Tony Robbins' gig in London, which I can't wait for you guys to hear about. It's a fantastic story. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. So today on the show, I'm delighted to have Helen Walsh, who is a health coach, personal trainer, and a health and fitness expert. How are you today, Helen?
Oh, you got to bang on.
Did I get it all
Well,
right?
I don't know about the expert bit, although I've clocked up the years, so yeah, we'll go with that.
And how are you doing today?
Yeah, no, really good, really good. We're just at the tail end of our Christmas event, the Operation Snowball, and so a lot of tired heads now over the next few days. But no, it's great. Christmas is a lovely time of year, and time for giving.
And can you tell me a bit more, because I saw your Pass It On initiative and all these initiatives on your website and social media. It's fantastic work you're doing.
Thank you. Pass It On is 21 years old this year, and it's just something that I do on the side. So what happened was I was watching an Oprah Winfrey show 21 years ago when I was sick, and I saw all these children collecting items and then giving them where they were needed. And I'd always been involved with charities and fundraising, and I thought, I love this idea. I love that you just get what's needed and then give it where it's needed. There's no middleman. There's no waste of money. So I set up Pass It On, and we started with little hampers. So the golden hampers was the first initiative, and they were to be for old people. Elderly people, to give them their proper term. At the time, they were old people.
We're all young at heart.
They were old people.
Yeah.
And so they were like luxury gloves, nice tissues, stuff that they wouldn't necessarily buy themselves because they'd be saving their money, or they wouldn't have a lot of money. And so we'd do up a hamper and give them. So there was about 16 hampers used to go out for the first couple of years. And then people started knocking on my door and saying, there's a family down the road that are really in trouble. And, there's no food, there's no whatever. So then I started collecting food. So people would donate tins of stuff and pasta and whatever. So running it from your house is always a bit of a challenge.
Boxes and boxes everywhere.
I'm mad. But the generosity of people. And then I remember the Kosovo War was on, and they put out an appeal for items. And there were coats and towels and blankets. And so I said to my friends, look, we got to do this and contribute or whatever. It's very easy. You have something in your press you don't want. And we had 10 potato sheds beside where I was living at the time, and we filled them. And there were 6 convoys went to Kosovo.
That's amazing.
With all the stuff. But that was my first realisation that if people get together as a community to do something, it's like, can be wow, So it sort of grew from there. And then after a few years doing the hampers by myself, I met this guy who was involved with a basket brigade, they were called, and they're still running. They did 105 hampers, I think it was, on Sunday. So it was a week's shopping that went out to families like the week before Christmas or whatever, full week shopping. So what they did was they used to raise the money and they'd buy the turkey and hams or whatever, and I would try and collect all the food items and we'd do the hampers. So over the years we do about 120 was about the average, whatever.
That's insane.
Now, the one thing I stopped doing was I would happy collect the food. I would happily go to wherever we were packing up the food. But when it came to delivering the food, like the things I saw were horrendous. And I would be bawling, crying in the car, and Sean, the driver at the time, would say, Helen, come on, you have to. And I couldn't cope with that part. I couldn't.
And would it be a range of different people receiving these hampers?
Yeah, just families and people in trouble. And I remember this one woman, and I knocked on the door with a hamper, and her partner, she was only a young woman and she had a young child, but the partner had come off his motorbike and been paralysed from the neck down. So she was feeding both the baby and him. No chance of getting out because they've X amount of hours with the carer. So limited in terms of trying to create any sort of income for herself. But she grabbed me so hard that she left her marks of her nails in my back all over Christmas. And it was a great reminder to me about her and her story, you know. And I thought, right. And we'd asked her about Santa Claus for the little guy, and she said that wasn't an option. So I made the driver go off to Smith's, and we got this big tractor or whatever, you know. So anyway, look, there's hundreds of little stories like that, and it sort of just grew. And then I met this other woman who was really involved with homeless, and I used to make the sandwiches with her and work on a Thursday night, and she'd go and sit on the streets with all these people on a Thursday night coming home from work and come back with great stories, and this person is doing well and this person has this. And I thought, okay, I'm going to start collecting all year round stuff, you know. So there were the small little sachets, you know, that people get rid of from magazines.
Yeah.
Or the toiletries that people put in their bag coming out of a hotel or whatever. So they make up great care packs, because a homeless person usually has shower option maybe for 10 minutes. And so that sort of grew then or whatever. And then I got involved with lots of different things. So I decided to have a bit of fun with it. So I called it Operation Snowball, and I realised it was getting way too big for my house. So the lovely people in Sedgwicks, they were OSG originally, said, look, just come in and take our basement. You know, there's a canteen there, there's the reception there, so there's kind. A ramp. Oh, they are incredible, because we couldn't do it without them. We have the local choir comes down and volunteers their time with the carols. There's food for everybody. We have amazing Jonathan Smith. You have to have Jonathan Smith on your podcast.
I'm not familiar with Jonathan Smith.
He owns Ernesto's up in Rathmines, but he is Santa Claus personified. Like, he's amazing. And he does so much charity work, but he's our Santa. And we will normally pick a child that's struggling with something or maybe a little bit sick, and we'd send a limo and Santi, and he knocks on the door for the child.
Oh my goodness.
We bring them down to open Operation Snowball. So our snow prince this year was a young guy called Eli Tom, and he's gorgeous. He's just gorgeous. So it was fantastic. And look, people donate what's called a snowball. So a snowball, say a red one, is for the homeless. So you have all your items already packed up. The pink ones were donated this year by the Pluribel Paddlers. They've all been through breast cancer, these women. They've an amazing rowing club. Another person for you to interview, Chris Barnes. She's mind-blowing.
And what do you think pushed you to be so kind? Like, what moment when you were young just motivated this in you, do you think?
I came from a very disruptive family, but my mother always had a kindness in her. Like, it was funny, because when I was coming over, I thought, what will I bring Louis? I don't know Louis well enough to know it, you know, just to bring a gift with me. And I thought my mother would kill me if she was here, if I don't come to someone's house with something. So I think it's just in me. Like, she would have, what am I trying to say? Enforce that in us. You know, you turn up with something, you don't go to someone's house unannounced, you don't, you know, so all those things would have been, she had a huge kind heart, my mum. It's the best feeling in the world to be witness to so many acts of kindness. I'm going to get upset now or emotional. I just, you see people giving, and they're really giving from a heartfelt place. They've gone out to pick the items, so they've actually had to think about who they're giving them to. And we covered long-term patients, residents in John of God's. They might never have a visitor from one end of the year to the other, but someone's going to knock on the door with a present. So, like, I feel good about that. The homeless care packs, I'm very careful about, because There's a lot of, the shoebox appeals and all, and fair play to them. The items are great, but there's no point in handing a homeless person a shoebox. What are they going to do with that? Then they have to find somewhere for it, and then and you're giving them a job to do. So there's a lot of talk goes on around it, and the research I did around even sponsoring the sleeping bags, they had to be lightweight, they had to be completely waterproof, and I had to get the best possible price. So there was a lot of phone calls and a lot of stuff went into that.
And everything was proper, like as you said, you need to get the right sleeping bags, everything the right way, because sometimes I feel like, as you said with the shoebox peel, you just kind of, some people can just throw things in a box, which is lovely and kind, but it's thinking about the exact purpose and how can they do it.
Yeah, and if it's raining, that shoebox is not going to hold anything, I have a woman at the moment that I'm working with that I'm trying to design it's like a sleeping bag what you call the bags, type thing. We're very lightweight, so it will double up as a sleeping bag or a pillow, or it'll keep their clothes warm, or it'll have different storage areas in it. So we're trying to do that next year instead of the sleeping bags, if I can pull that off. So it's growing all the time.
And unfortunately, like, there will always be homelessness, but the rates of homelessness at the minute is just insane.
67% it went up this year. That's like phenomenal. 67%.
That's insane. 67%.
So, and the children on the street, you see, people hear that and they think, they're in hostels or they're in hotels or wherever. They're tucked up on the street under a sleeping bag. I can show you where there's children. And like, that to me is the most sickening thing, I've only a 1-bedroom apartment myself, because I would really struggle with not bringing them home. I really would struggle with that. And it's very, very difficult. I think the only way it's going to change is obviously at a government level. I think that when there's a cap put on the rents and people can find somewhere to live, then that's going to change the game.
But it's just insane, because like, our country has such a high minimum wage compared to the rest of Europe in general.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can't put people in a bed, that kids don't have somewhere to sleep, it's just insanity. New decade, new year.
And I hope so.
Helen, you are one of the 50 most influential women in Ireland.
That was 2006.
So how did that come about? That's fantastic.
That was very funny, because I had been speaking at a women's conference and I made a lot of friends and networked there. It was fantastic. And about 2 days later, I got a phone call to say, we've shortlisted you for, this 50 most influential women. And I said, go away, stop messing, who's this? And I really thought it was somebody just taking the mic. Yeah. I thought this is ridiculous, and it's funny looking back on that, because the interview that I gave 3 days later about it was all about people coming in, immigrants coming into the country, and the fact that we weren't ready and we didn't have the facilities. And direct provision, again, is a real, sign that we haven't dealt with that 100% either. But it was funny to see that in print from like 2006. It's a long time ago, but that's when it was starting to really happen in Ireland. It was lovely. It was a huge privilege. I mean, I'm on the page with some absolutely incredible women. I don't know that I deserved to be on that page at that time.
Why do you think that?
Well, it just you had Mary McAleese, you had Mary Robbins, and these women who are very, very established in their own right, doing their thing. And my thing, I suppose, was more of an undercurrent than very obvious,
Well, I suppose there's heroes in many different ways. Just because you're not or weren't in the public eye, like pushing your initiative, like just because everyone in the news didn't know about the Pass It On initiative doesn't mean that you didn't deserve the award. Like,
I've been honoured a couple of times and I've been very, very lucky. I've been given the Lord Mayor Award twice. And the first time I was told we were going to a Spandau Ballet concert, so I was all, yay. And then we weren't going to Spandau Ballet. I sulked. I was like, I'm not going to Spandau Ballet. But it was really lovely to get the honour. And then the second time it happened, the best part was this guy came over, and he's a lovely man, and he runs a college in Dublin, and he said, I love what you do. He said, I'm going to give you 2 scholarships a year for the next 5 years. He said, you can place kids that need, a little bit of a lift up and a little bit of education. And that was the best part of the night for me.
That's very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And Chris Andrews had instigated that award, and he's been amazing. Like, in fairness to him, he backs everything I do. He was there on Sunday with the sleeves rolled up, mucking out, you know. So there's so many people involved in it that it's not me. I run it, but it's a community. But I have to tell you the story about the toys, because I never wanted to get involved with the toys. It was too bulky, and I was like, oh my God, this would be a nightmare trying to, you know, and I had friends who would do Secret Santa, and that was all great. But 3 years ago, when I went to one of these shelters to have a meeting with the coordinator, and she was late, and you come into a sort of reception area, and then everything is sort of locked down from there on in. But there was these two little kids playing on the ground, and they're chalking. And when they looked up and saw me, they nearly died, because they're like, oh crap, you know, we've just got caught now scribbling on the ground. And I'm like, it's grand, sure, it's chalk, like. And it turns out that they came from flats. So they used to go out onto the landing and draw on the flats. So they hadn't got the access to that. So they were doing it in this place. So I sat on the floor with them, and I had a chat, and I couldn't help noticing that the shoes were too big on them, and their hats were too big for them, but these big woolen red hats on them, you know, they were so cute. And I was like, okay, now what's the story now with Santa Claus? Like, what is he going to bring in, whatever? And they went, Santa Claus the B, and it was a very long word. And I said,
and what age were the kids?
6 and 5. They were sisters. And I said, so that's a really big word for a little person. I said, like, Santa must have really upset you. Well, he's just never come to us. I said, no, I never, no, he's never come to us. And I said, okay, fine. I said, I'll tell you what you do. I'm going to write your name down here fully, because I actually have a direct line to Santa Claus, and I'm going to make sure that he comes this year. What do you want? And we did a little list with them, right? I went home, I cried, I think, for about 2 days over that. I couldn't believe that these children not only had to get up and move out of their house probably in the middle of the night without all their stuff, you know, but that there wasn't even that for them. And people think, oh, you know, the services are being milked and the whatever. I can tell you now, there's no one in those domestic shelters that doesn't need to be there. There's nobody, because you wouldn't get a place for starters. But besides that, who wants to choose that? You know, they have what they need to survive in that place and keep them safe, and that's it. So I had a meeting then with this woman, and I said, tell me, are they joking? And she said, no, there's no money for that. So I said, okay, will you give me the list for here? There's 16 units in this particular place, and we'll cover the kids. I'll find a way. It was 3 days to Operation Snowball, but I said, we'll find a way of doing this. And when she sent through the list, didn't she send me through the list for the 3 hostels by accident? And then she phoned me. She said, look, Helen, knock off the last 2. I'm really sorry. They were just attached. I said, are you crazy? You've just sent me the names of the kids and their ages. Do you think I'm going to be able to ignore them now? So we'd 79 toys to get. And they came in within 24 hours. Now, that's the kindness of people.
And how did that happen?
Well, a woman that I knew very well in Sandymount, Fanula, introduced me to Antonia, who was the manager in Tesco. She said, I'll get all my staff to buy a present. So that was the first 50 in. And then she herself went around all the shops in Sandymount and said, I want a toy. And she just asked for them. And she packaged them all up, and she organised. And then each year from then on, this is the 3rd year, she's like, I want to do this. This is my thing now at Christmas. And it's her thing.
That's so powerful.
Yeah, so she gave us 60 Santa toys on Sunday. I teach 1 day a week in Belvedere College. I've been there for 19 years. I went in by accident to cover a class, and I'm still there. I teach communication skills to transition year boys. And they're in between being a kid, really, and being a grown-up. And so you have to talk to them on both levels. And what I find is that the ones that have, you know, everything in their life, there's another part missing, you know. So sometimes we look at the kids and we say, oh, they're on their phone or they're spoiled or whatever. There's something else missing there when they don't connect with people on a different level, you know. Maybe the parents are too busy working to raise the money to send them to a good school, you know, and they don't have that time with their parents. And so I think that we have to just try and not judge them, you know, because this is the circumstances they were born into. These poor children in the Philippines, this is what they were born into. And they all know their lines of happiness. But I can guarantee you the ones that have the most are probably the most miserable. You know, if you have a child over in the Philippines and you give them anything small, the happiness that creates in them and the joy that creates in them, they know how to be happy. Whereas these children, what are you going to give them? They have everything thrown at them already. You know, it's so unfair. And like even the connection on the phone and stuff, I used to say, right, I have you for 2 hours. So I can see if you're under the desk on your phone, right? So let's not do that, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you 10 minutes in the middle of my class to text. Be on your phone, do whatever. I'm going to give you a text break, but you put the phone on the desk for the rest of the time so you don't go near it. And they're happy with that because they know, okay, I can, because it's a complete addiction.
It's such an addiction, isn't it?
It's an addiction. Now they've taken the phones off them completely in the school and in other schools, which fundamentally is going to be brilliant further down the line. But to take them from having it all the time on them to not having it, they're actually depressed. It's caused this massive depression with the students. Like, you can see it and they're so miserable.
Well, it's like a need. It's just like, I was listening to a podcast yesterday and it was about digital detoxing, and they were like, don't even have your phone in your pocket because then you're more likely to grab it or distract yourself at some point. And I find it funny how a lot of people take their phone to the bathroom. Isn't that so weird? Like, they're like, I'm going to the bathroom, get up like from a cafe and take the phone. It's like a phone break more so than needing the loo.
Oh, it's mad. That's my, no, God, yeah. I never noticed that so much. I probably will notice it now. You'll see it, and I'll be like, oh, what are you doing?
Do you really need to go for a wee? Or do you need to
Are you going to text somebody? Yeah.
It's just mad because it's so rude, and especially at my age, like, some people will just take out their phone and don't realise it's rude.
My pet hate is organising to meet somebody for a cup of tea. And it might be the only half hour you're free in your day and whatever, because I run my business and pass it on and go to school and all those things. But it's really precious for me to have time with somebody, and I really appreciate if somebody turns up to meet me for a cup of tea and then they go on their phone and all you see is the top of their head.
Sorry, 1 sec. I just need to do this one thing. Yeah,
it freaks me out. I'm like, and I will say, I get to a point where I go, can you just put the phone down? Like, I've had enough of trying to talk to your head. You know, we either do this or I can go. But it's such a waste of somebody's time sitting in front of you if
they're not present. And it's so hard to be present. And someone said to me recently, if you're feeling depressed, you're looking in the past, and if you're feeling anxious, you're looking in the future. Whereas you can only really be happy right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's so true. And when someone put it like that to me, I was like, right, that's such a simple way and digestible. And let's take it to your wellness. You were doing this well before anyone else, well before wellness was the thing, fitness, wellness and coaching. Yeah. So tell us how that happened. How did you get into that?
So it was so funny. I always wanted to dance when I was a kid, and I used to dress up we had a bedroom that was downstairs, and I'd have a hairbrush and I'd put on the Joe Dolan records or whatever we had, you know, access to, and I'd be singing and dancing into the mirror, and that was the love of my life. Like, I loved doing it, and in all the madness that was probably going on around me, it saved me because I'd go into this lovely little safe space in my head, and I was really happy times doing that. And so I wanted to be a dancer, but my mum was very ill, and so just going to dance classes wasn't an option. And yeah, I remember Fame on the TV, and I remember Flashdance and thinking, oh, I want some of that. Like, and the first fitness course that came here, I remember they had some scholarship places on it, and I thought, oh, I'm going to apply for this. And I applied, and I sold my soul to the people who interviewed me. But because I didn't have the experience behind me, I didn't get the place. And I locked myself in the bedroom for 3 days now. It was a bedroom that other people were sleeping in. So there was a bit of a problem.
And what age were you at this point?
I was 17. I just finished school. So my mum said, look, go and keep your nose clean. She said, get a job in a supermarket. You'll make supervisor. You'll do really well in a couple of years' time. And she signed me up for an interview in the first ever scanning system out in the Marion Centre. And so I took a job out there, and I lasted 6 weeks. I couldn't.
It just not for you.
But the old people were coming in with their food and their stuff, and I didn't want to take the money off them. Like they'd be counting out the coins, and I thought, like, I could end up in Mountjoy if I don't take the money off them. So I have to leave this job. This is just not for me. And then I remember this other course setting up in Lytton Lane. Kevin Flanagan, and he was an amazing but very strict guy. But the course was £1,100 at the time.
That's very expensive.
That was massive. Yeah. So I took 3 jobs. I had a newspaper round, I had worked in a video shop, I worked in a news agent. Like, I was doing that course. There was nothing stopping me.
How many hours a week were you working when you
all round the clock. But I didn't care, and it was my first sort of real sense of, if you want something and you're prepared to do what it takes, you can have it, you can get there. But coming up to payment day, I was short of about £300. And I remember my dad coming up to me and he said, okay, you've proved that this is something that you want to do. You've been asking me for money for a business since you were 11. He said, so I'm going to give you the €300, but I'm only going to give it, or £300 at the time. I'm only going to give it to you as a loan. I want it back. I was like, oh, great. Yeah, whatever. That I knew paying it back wouldn't be a problem. Went down with my boyfriend at the time to Wexford the weekend before the course, and had an accident off the cliff. We were messing on the side of the cliff, fell off the cliff. Ended up on crutches.
Oh no.
Just before the course. I did the course anyway. And we 3.5 months of 3 hours of aerobics in the morning, 3 hours of weight training in the afternoon. You had a lecture at night time, and then 3 hours homework every day for 3.5 months. Like, you really had to train your backside off for this. And I loved every minute of it. Yeah, but immersion in anything means you block out the other stuff and allows you to have what's in front of you, or to gain what's in front of you. The only way I could do that was I went back to college at night time. I did 20 years of courses, because I loved going and learning stuff. But I remember always hooking up with a group of people that held me accountable. And that was my way of immersing myself with the college stuff, because other than that, I wouldn't have turned up for lectures, or I would have, I'm not feeling great today, or, Jesus, that assignment. And I really worked hard on a lot of the courses I did. I became, when I went to work in the gym business, initially, I didn't have my qualifications, and I went for this interview for this job, and the guy said to me, you don't have any qualifications yet. And I said, I'm going to work for you free till my qualifications come through, and then if you like me, then you give me the job. And that's how I got my first job in the gym business. And I cleaned all my equipment. That was my equipment as far as I was concerned. They were my tools. So I would go in and clean the gym to an inch of its life. The mirrors would be spotless clean, my clothes would be spotless clean, and I took huge pride in things. But then we were paid much better than they are now in the gym industry. It was a real privilege to work in that industry. And I think it took me a while, but I also really got that if somebody came into the gym and handed themselves to me and said, I want a program, they're handing their body over to you. You better know what you're doing. You can't one size fits all program, And I loved that, and I loved every minute of it. But after putting people on the weighing scales, it's a bit like a confession box. You put people on a weighing scales and they go, oh, wait till I tell you, and blah, blah, blah. And they tell you about these real personal things. And I thought, I'm not equipped for this. I don't know how to help them. I don't know how to answer them. I don't know. So I went off and became a counsellor. I did the counselling in Maynooth University. I came out from the counselling course. No disrespect to any counsellors listening, but I came out when I'm not ever going to be a counsellor. I don't want to listen to... Does
it bring you to a dark place doing a lot of that work, like being a counsellor now, when you were doing it?
No, I think it wasn't. For me, I think it's very important to go back and look at your life and see where you came from and see the patterns and see the childhood development and all that. I think it's really, really important. It gives you massive information on why you react to things and why you behave a certain way and why you pick certain relationships. So for me, yes, of course, it's very difficult for anyone going through that, because you have to look at your own stuff, but I think it's so amazing. But when I came out of the counselling course, of course, there was no coaches in Ireland at the time. I didn't know anything about coaching. But for me, I wanted something that was more proactive. I wanted to sit down where someone said, right, moving forward, these are your options. Or this is where I think, you could really progress. Or this is your purpose. This is your skills. You're really good at this. I loved seeing people stepping into what they were good at. So I knew I had that coaching thing in me way before I ever knew what the name for it was. And this guy left some tapes behind in the changing room, God bless him wherever he is, and they were Brian Tracy. And Brian Tracy was a business coach from the States, and I listened to those over and over all night long.
He was like the Tony Robbins, was
he? Till I had to bring them back the next day. And I thought, this makes sense. And his basic message was, you can do whatever you want to do. You can be whoever you want to be. You have to do the work. You have to take the hit. You know, if there's certain sacrifices that might... Because people now think, oh, I want to become famous. I want to become an influencer. I want to become whatever. And they're not prepared to do the work. It's like we spoke about the podcast when you were setting up, and you said people think it's just this conversation, but there's X amount of hours, a day's work. Really.
Sure, even texting back and forth and organising and getting the right dates and stuff like that, and then the editing and then the marketing, getting it out there, make sure that the sound is correct and all the levels are correct. Yeah, I think people just want to do stuff without wanting to do the work, and if you don't enjoy the work, there's no point in doing it.
Well,
just for
it
the
doesn't
results.
feel like work, you see, when you're doing what you love.
Exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't feel like I would have turned up to any of the courses, and I did child psychology, I did cognitive behavioural therapy, but I did them because I loved listening to the information and taking it in. I hated the assignments, oh my God. And I didn't really understand what that was about for me either till I brought this lecturer one day. She'd come in to do one lecture on the child psychology course, and she was a bit lost, and I said, come on, I'll show you where to go, and we'll go and have a cup of tea and whatever. And I brought her downstairs and we were chatting, and she had said something in the lecture, and I said, can I ask you about this, and blah blah blah. And I said, oh sure, Shakespeare makes total sense to me. Like, I immerse into it after about 5 minutes, and it makes total... She said, you've dyslexia. And I said, I don't know. And she said, she wrote a couple of words down, and I couldn't tell you whether they were the right spelling or they weren't.
And you just had this revelation then and there.
And I went, oh my God, I've dyslexia. And I've just gone through nearly 20 years of college not knowing that I had this. And I thought, in a way, I'm really glad I didn't know, because I wouldn't have wanted it to be the excuse. For me, the dyslexia just meant that I had to work twice as hard as everybody else to get those papers done, and cried my way through them. It was really horrendous. But at least I know, God, even with the condition I have, I can actually still get through it, and I can still do it, and you can still do it. And that's the main thing. You don't, as you're getting older, and you're nowhere near my age, so this will come for you, I promise you, this will come. As you get older, you start to get clearer about the things that you like and you don't like. So I don't want to go there because I don't this, or I don't want to do this and I don't. But also you get very good at making excuses for those things, because you don't want to go into uncomfortable anymore. You know, I've been to 5 parties like that. I know that I don't like, and that's not necessarily even an age thing, but it does come with age a bit. And you really have to watch yourself, because you find that you stop yourself going to places and meeting people and connecting. And I think that's why people get lonely when they get a bit older, because they've already said, I don't want to go there because I know what will happen.
I have my friends, I don't need new friends.
Yeah, I know. I've been to loads of parties, so I know what will happen. I have never been to 2 parties the same. I know you've been the same. You're the same. There's never been 2 parties the same, so you don't know what the possibilities are. You don't know who you're going to meet at the parties. You might feel really tired or really not in the mental frame of it. When you make yourself do it, even if you turn up for an hour, you're actually honouring the person who's invited you because they want you to be there, but also you're honouring yourself, because you're going, you know what, I feel crap, but I'm pushing myself and I'm going to do this anyway.
And you never know who you're going to meet then on that night.
I have met the most incredible people on the nights that I really didn't want to be there. That they have been the best connections that I've made with people. And so I think you just have to push yourself into that uncomfortable state.
It's funny that you bring that up, because I actually had this revelation recently, only in the past week. So I would just kind of, because I work a lot, I wouldn't be going out on these crazy nights out or whatever like that. And I found myself just hanging out with the same people. Now, they're my best friends and I love them, but I'd have a cup of tea with one of my best friends, and then one of my other friends would go for a walk, and then I might go see a movie with this friend, And I was only surrounding myself with the same 5 people for about a month or two. And then on Thursday night, there was a college party last week, and I was like, I was making up stupid excuses in my head of why I couldn't go. I was like, and then slowly I realised, am I uncomfortable to go there and meet new people? And then I went and met loads of cool new people, and now just have this bigger, this bigger circle and this bigger thing.
And that's just, we just need to watch that. That's all.
Be aware of it.
Be aware of it. It is, I remember going to the Tony Robbins gig in London, and
I hear that's insane, is it?
Insane. And I'm going to tell you the story about that in a minute because it's really mad. But I remember him saying, put your hands up in the air. So most people will put their hands up and their arms are still bent. This is where they're at, right? And then he'll say, now put them straight up and you really stretch. And he's like, that's the bit there that we don't go into. We go into comfortable first. And then the uncomfortable bit is where we're really going to develop and learn and push ourselves to grow. And as human beings, we need to keep growing, because if we don't, we suffocate. That's where you get depression. That's where you get mental health issues. That's where you get
the bad stuff creeps
in. Lethargicness, and then your body starts breaking down and causing illness. But the Tony Robbins thing, I wanted to go for years. And I remember putting him up on the mirror in the bedroom I was in at the time and saying, I'm going to that, but I think the ticket was £1,000, and then the flights and accommodation and whatever. It was 4 days in London, and I'd saved up for this and I was going, but I hadn't bought my ticket yet, and the next thing, my car broke. And the car had to go in the bin, so I had to use €1,000 to buy a car. And I'm like, oh no. And I'm having this conversation with the picture Tony Robbins going, I'll get to you.
I'm on my way.
And I went out that afternoon to a friend's house. I was training her and her husband, who I know very well, and he would have had similar interests in self-development and psychology. And he said, guess where I'm going for the weekend? I said, I don't care as long as it's not Robbins. We were having this to and fro slagging. And he said, oh, I am going. And he said, I have corporate tickets. He said, 300 quid if you want them. And I had my rent in my bag. And I said, oh, you shouldn't have done this to me. I said, and I took the 300 quid and I bought the ticket, right? And then I'm coming home thinking, I've nowhere to stay, I've no flights, I've no nothing. Went on to the Ryanair thing, 1p each way.
A
flash sale. And then
the universe was looking after you.
My friend rang and I said, where am I? She's from London. I said, where am I going to stay in London like that? I'm after spending my rent on this ticket. She said, it will be fine. I'll ring you back in 10 minutes. So she rang me back, and her mum lives in London, and I went to stay with her mum for the 4 days, and she lived like 10 minutes from the Excel Centre. So I went in to this amazing,
oh my God,
amazing, and I was sick on the morning I went over. I was sick. Like really bad sore throat, and really I thought, I don't care if I'm coming out in an ambulance, I'm going, because all these things have conspired for me to be here.
That's very, very amazing.
And those things happen, they're incredible. But I remember going into the room, and 10 minutes later I wasn't sick, and that's when I really got an idea of how strong energy is in terms of you getting better. Like my tonsils, my throat, everything had healed within 10 minutes of being in that room, because the energy was unreal. 10,000 people in the Excel Centre. If you ever get a chance to do this, you need to go, because besides the performance that is Tony Robbins, and the information that you get, something will click with you. Besides that, it's the best party you'll ever be at in your life. 10,000 people that you just go around hugging and dancing with and whatever. Like, it's like it's big cult stuff. It's like mental. And then you roll up your trousers and you go out into like -5 degrees on the Docklands, and you walk across hot coals on the first day just to show yourself mentally
what you can do.
It's not a problem. And there's tens of thousands of people like coming out and going across these. It's an incredible sight. So it's just, I don't know if it would have the same impact now as it did back then.
He's losing his voice now, isn't he? He can't do it as much or something.
I think he's put his foot in it a few times. In terms of being politically correct with things and whatever. And he really, with the Me Too movement, he really screwed up. And it's unfortunate for him in a way, because it killed off his business, I think, quite a lot.
I didn't realise that.
I also think, though, he has enough money to do him for the rest of his days.
Well, £1,000 a ticket, so...
But, oh no, he charges like $1 million if you want to coach with him. So he owns an island out in the Caribbean and all. Like,
I'm sure he's fine.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not really going to be worried about him. But it was unfortunate because he had changed so many lives and he'd done so much to put that idea into your head that your thoughts will create your reality.
And Helen, that's what you're doing now for other people. That's amazing.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, I've had good teachers. I've had good teachers along the way. I've really had people be kind to me, and I've had the most incredible things happen to me.
I can't get over the £1, 300 ticket. Insane. That story is such a positive note as we're coming to the end. Now I want to ask one more question. What advice would you give to young people today to really hit their goals and go towards it?
The first and most important thing is self-care. It's actually minding yourself. It's making sure that you're eating properly. It's making sure that you're getting sleep. It's making sure that you stay away from people who are really toxic. It's very easy to get drawn into that and it will pull your energy down. And whoever you surround yourself, the 5 people you surround yourself with is the level that you will go to. So you have to be around people who are positive about their future and who are positive about what's coming down the line. Here's my best saying ever. This is the thing that really had the most profound effect on my life ever. You don't know what you don't know. Now think about that. So that they are the possibilities of what's coming down the line that you can't see. So I couldn't see that there was going to be a flash sale in Ryanair that day. I couldn't see that I could stay with her aunt. I couldn't see. I took a chance and I took a gamble, and maybe that doesn't always work out. But my experience is that if you take a chance on yourself, that it will bring great things, and just really believe in yourself. When you hear yourself in your head saying negative things about yourself, you've got to just question it. You don't have to tell yourself to shut up straight away, but you do have to question it. Why am I being so negative with myself when I wouldn't do that to you? I wouldn't say those things. And do things that are authentic. Do them for now. Like, I'm having this conversation with you. And to me, it's great if people listen to this, and if they get anything from it, fantastic. But I'm not doing it for that. I actually am having a conversation with you, and I'm delighted to be here, spending time with you.
As am I. I'm learning so much every second.
And I think if people do that and just become more authentic in themselves and stop this fake life, because I tell you what happens to the fake life is it builds and builds and builds, and then something happens and it cracks. And when it cracks, your mental health will go with it. If you're creating a false illusion and a false life for yourself, there's nothing in that that's going to be sustainable. It will be a matter of time before that cracks.
And I've seen that so much since school. Like, I've found with social media coming in when I was in the peak of secondary school, a lot of people became social climbers, I believe is the right term to use, and they would hang out with people who had slightly more followers on Instagram and then slightly more, but they weren't genuine friends, and it was just bizarre to me that you just hang out with people.
I said I became a trainer 30 years ago, I became a coach 20 years ago. If you look at that arena on the likes of social media, it's a saturated market for starters, but also there's all these people who are really great at the digital marketing and everything, and they have 200,000 followers or whatever, and I might have 1,000. So they get the work, and so there is a hierarchy that follows that. But I'm telling you now, from standing up in front of groups of people and from speaking, that if you don't know your stuff to back up what you've done, and you don't have the experience of working with people, you are absolutely screwed when you stand up there and someone asks you a question, because you're going to look really stupid that you can't answer it, So have the background, do the work, and then by all means, go for the 200,000 followers. That's fantastic, but not on the back of nothing.
I think that's the thing as well. Aim to be something like a profession, like a singer, motivational speaker, life coach, and then you become the influencer or the celebrity or whatever you want. But don't aim to be celebrity first. No,
I think it's a big mistake, and I think it's very much of the time. I'm really excited about 2020. I think there's great things coming. I can feel it.
Yeah, I have a good feeling about 2020.
Yeah. I think it's time for change for a lot of things, and I think a lot of people are going back to really authentic stuff, and even our whole thing about recycling and all now, we've just become better at it. So we're going to go back to a lot of basics, I think, and it's really needed, because we're living in this very false world for too long now. and the bubble is about to burst.
Brilliant,
So we
Helen.
want to make sure we land on the ground.
I think that's a perfect way to end the podcast. And where can we find you? Your socials, your website?
HelenWalsh.ie has all the links on it. I think I'm on everything: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and they're all different communities of people, and I love engaging with them. So yeah, and they'd be sick of me coming up to Christmas with Operation Snowball.
And before we go, what are your last 3 things that inspire you? It can be a book, it can be a person. 3 quick things.
Kindness inspires me, so seeing an act of kindness. And it might only be that I see somebody putting money into a cup, as I said, of a homeless person, or I see somebody who came up to me the other day and said, I was thinking about that person you told me about, and I've put this little pack together. So kindness inspires me. People who work really hard inspire the hell out of me. My family, my sister and her husband, fantastic. They don't always get it right, but they work their asses off to make sure that their children have education and are looked after. So families, people who really work at their families, for their families, inspire me. And then I just think we have this huge thing in us that if we tap into, we can go towards. And I think that energy and that enthusiasm and ambition is in everybody if you tap into the right thing. So that inspires me as well. So yeah, I'm a big book person. I have a motivational book club on Facebook that I tap into, and I love encouraging people to buy books and to read books, because you never know when a book is going to change your life.
And you've inspired me today.
Oh, thank you
so much. And I can perfectly relate to the book thing, but I want to give all my props to you. That was an amazing conversation.
Yeah, I've loved it, and time's flown in, and that's always a good sign of a good conversation.
Yeah, it was amazing, and I learned so much, and I hope the people listening have learned so much, because honestly, your whole experience, and we could talk for 7 hours, 8 hours, 3 days, whatever, but we'll have to do this again.
Yeah, no, I've loved every minute of it, and thank you. And if there's anyone I can help or whatever, they can contact me through helenwalsh.ie as well. If there's anyone in trouble, or if there's anyone, that ever just wants to put a hand out to somebody, they can email me, they can drop me an email or whatever. I would never turn anyone away that I can help.
Thank you so much to Helen for giving us her time, and thank you so much for listening. If you do like the show, make sure to share it, pop it on your stories, send it to a friend, and I do hope you're really looking after yourselves in these days. Now have a great week, and we will see you all next week.